Welcome everyone to the podcast. This is Paul. I'm a recovered addict. I live in Scotland. We're going to be talking about step 5 in Cocaine Anonymous today, which is we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So it's a phenomenal step. There's a lot to talk about. I'm really pleased that I've been joined with someone I count as a friend, whose name is Rob.
Hi guys. Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Rob. I'm from Aylesbury, and I am a recovering cocaine addict.
Beautiful, beautiful. So there's a lot to talk about. Would you agree, Rob? It's quite an important progression through the program of CA, I'd say.
No, massive step. Yeah, it's I think it's one of the crucial key moments, in anybody's recovery. Definitely step 4 and step 5. Yeah, I totally agree.
So Rob's kindly agreed to share with us his experience, strength, and hope around recovery from addiction and where he's at today. So without further ado, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, mate. I'm Rob. I'm 44. I'm from sort of Aylesbury area, down in Buckinghamshire, and I'm a recovering cocaine addict. I'm currently not far off 6 months clean and sober, and for the past 2 years I absolutely smashed myself to bits with cocaine, to the point where my health was in jeopardy. I've had quite a colourful life, and had a lot of prison time and sort of violent crimes and things like that. And this program has sorted me out. It's turned my life around completely, and it's a beautiful process. And I'm really pleased to be here today with Paul and sharing to you guys. And it's step 1, 2, and 3 for me were relatively easy because I was absolutely broken. I had nothing left to give. I had no other sort of hope or way out. And step 4 and 5, are such crucial steps in your recovery. And we'll go into that in further detail. I think after step 5, the rest of the steps just sort of fell into place very easily. And there's also a lot of fear around step 4 and 5. I'll explain that in a bit more detail when Paul and I have a chat. And there's nothing to fear at all. So
Absolutely, Rob. Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, it's I think there's always this misconceived sort of idea that 4 and 5 is the one that's always going to trip you up. And I think once we talk about it in more detail, I think anybody that's coming up to do their 4 and 5, hopefully we should be able to shed some of those fears, and look at a much more positive light on it,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I often get asked, what are the 12 steps? What is the program? How does it actually work? Well, we put pen to paper. We get into action, don't we, Rob? We answer questions. I mean, in step 1, that's the first of the inventories. We look at the powerlessness of active addiction, the real-time consequences on others, on ourselves, on our feelings, on our bodies, on our minds, on our liberty. In step 2, we come to believe that this process, this program, these steps, this literature, these meetings can work for us, that the fellowship can work for us. We come to our faith and trust in a higher power, whether that's the rooms or whatever you believe in, or the creator. We come to faith and trust that this process can work. In step 3, we make a decision to give the process a go. to give recovery a chance, to give the program a chance, and to turn our will and lives over to the care of God as we understand God. In step 4, we do another set of inventory. And this time we look at resentments, all the resentments we've ever had. And by this time we're attending meetings, we've got some kind of meditation and prayer going on a daily basis. We're staying connected with other folks in recovery every day. We're putting pen to paper. We've perhaps got a journal. We've perhaps got some spiritual literature of our own choosing that we read each day. And generally and severally, life's getting better. So if you've just clicked on this YouTube video, or wherever you've clicked on it, this is step 5. We've got an introduction to Cocaine Anonymous, the program and the steps. We've got a video on step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So I'd encourage you to check those out. We do the steps in order, and we do that for a reason. So today we're going to be looking at step 5, which, as Rob has said, is very closely connected to step 4, which was the last video we did a few days ago. Now, in step 4, we take a proper look at resentments, fears, and harms, which is done on sheets. So do check that video out. You know, we write line by line resentments, or resentment at my brother. He never paid me that £50 he owed me. It made me feel like this. What was my part in it? What ought I to have done? What could I have done? And is there a solution? And then I'm resentful at Jack because of this, and it made me feel like this, and the consequences, what ought I have done? And then on the fear sheet, I'm fearful of this. This is how it made me feel. What's the solution? What's the will of God in this circumstance? What can I do? God deliver me from this fear. And then harms, if we've harmed anybody, or I whacked Joe around the head because of the way he behaved in front of my partner last year. You know, this is how it made me feel. I think it would have made him feel like this. What's the solution? What ought I to have done? What's God's will in this circumstance? Ought I to make amends? And so we end up, don't we, Rob, with probably 2 or 3 or 4 resentment sheets, 1 or 2 fear sheets, and 1 or 2 harm sheets. And it's all about those last columns, which brings us to step 5. So in practical terms, on step 5, Rob, I come up with, well, I have folks personally write it on the back of their first resentment sheet. So they'll write at the top, Rob, step 5, read the step, which is admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. So what you're going to end up with is a list of a dozen, 2 dozen wrongs, you know, whether it's wrong behavior, wrong thinking, wrong actions, that we're going to end up with a list, aren't we, Rob, at the end of step 5?
Yes,
and
yeah.
You know, and obviously the very act of writing out those exact nature of wrongs is in itself an admission to ourselves in God's presence, or in higher power's presence. You know, the exact nature of where you've gone wrong in life, wrong thoughts, words, and deeds.
Yeah, I think with a lot of people, it's the fear factor of first of all admitting what they've done to a stranger, in a way, your sponsor, and then also then asking your higher power, God, to take those away from you in step 5. And you know, a lot of people hold a lot of fear around these 2 steps, and I did, you know, admittedly, I really did. Mine was somewhere between an exorcism and a police confession, you know, and you know, because of my background, because of the sort of stuff that I was up to, a lot of mine were violence and things like that. So, you know, I had more harms than resentments. And, you know, some of those were very, very difficult to deal with. You know, and I had held on to them for a long time, you know, so it's a difficult step, but it's a freeing step, Paul. You know, I think you'd agree.
Absolutely. And I've seen, on a practical note, I've seen many men and women set free from catastrophic past and carnage. Families reconciled, marriages healed, folks getting in touch with their children, their brothers, their sisters, aunts, uncles, parents, become employable. I've seen lots and lots of miracles in the rooms of 12-step recovery, both face-to-face and online, Rob, over many years. So this stuff absolutely works. If you're listening to this and you're struggling with drug addiction, you too can get free, and you can stay free and have a happier future. Many of us, in general terms, Rob, could quit for a little while, but could we stay quit? I remember times where I get days or weeks or sometimes months, and I can remember time I got years staying clean. Cocaine Anonymous is a program of complete abstinence. Now, abstinence isn't for everyone, is it, Rob? You know what I mean? We get a lot of folks coming into the rooms of recovery, and and God bless them, more power to them, but not everyone is prepared to get completely abstinent from all mood and mind altering substances. And so this process, this step work, helps us get clear of the wreckage of the past. We get a little bit more serenity and courage and wisdom, and then suddenly we've lost the desire to drink and use through this process completely. And we can recover from a hopeless state of mind and body. Like yourself, Rob, I believe we need to get into this work and stay at it day after day. Do you know what I mean? We're committed to a process of action and recovery, aren't we?
Oh, totally. It's one of the key points that I always say to people that are starting their journey. Never take your foot off the gas. You need to keep the momentum going. You need to keep the wheels turning. Otherwise, you've got a good chance of falling off. And the beautiful thing about step 5 is, like you say, about sort of abstinence and staying clean for a little while. You can do that sheerly on willpower. If you really, really try hard enough, you can do it on willpower alone. But you're like a dry drunk. You've still got that addiction, that disease going in the background, but you're staying clean. Now, that it is an achievement and it isn't, but in the long run, it won't work for you. You have to work the program. You have to do the steps, and they're there for a reason, and they're in an order for a reason. You saying about abstinence, I remember my sponsor telling me complete abstinence, and I went, what? So I can't even have a bottle of Corona when I'm doing a barbecue? And he went, no. And I thought, I haven't got a drink problem. But my drink problem was the fact that as soon as I drank one, I wanted to use cocaine. So that was the problem. So I've had to do complete abstinence, and it works. It does work.
Yeah, absolutely. And these things can seem a tall order. And many of us have discovered at the bottom of that glass or bottle of can is the dealer's phone number, and in the words of the great Russell Brand, he'd start from the glass of wine with his meal, but he'd be selling his ass for a rock by the end of the night. And people say, what do you actually do? Well, if anyone's got any questions, you can put them in the comments, and we're going to be doing a video on each of the 12 steps, and then very likely a part 2 to each of the videos on the 12 steps. So stick around, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll try and answer them going forward. So we end up with a list that's based on those last boxes of the 3 inventories that are part of step 4, the resentments, fears, and harms. We end up with those last boxes that was our part in it, what we did, how we were, and perhaps what we ought to have done. Rob, would that be right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that is the guts of our step 5 list of the exact nature of our wrongs, isn't it?
It's literally just getting proper honest. You've just got to get proper honest with yourself, your sponsor, and your higher power. You know, this is like it's like having a winning lottery ticket. You know, you've won, but you've still got to cash it in. And unless you go and cash that ticket in, you've won nothing. The money goes back in the pot, you know, and you've got such an amazing chance to free yourself from all of this horrible baggage you've been carrying around with you. And yeah, it's a beautiful experience when you do actually you know, do complete step 5, you know.
And you know, I you know, we use literature, our 2 basic texts, or a book called Alcoholics Anonymous, which we often call the big book, and another book called the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is what I've got up on the screen here. Now, both those books can be listened to or read completely free anytime at aa.org. They're also reasonably priced to buy. You can get a big book delivered for about 12 or 14 pounds. You can get a 12 and 12 for about the same price. Personally, when I'm helping guys go through this process, I like to use both books. And so in real terms, that you know, before we start step 5, Rob, they'll have read step 5 out of the 12 and 12 themselves. And then we'll arrange a time, and we'll have a phone call, probably 45 minutes, an hour, Rob. And together we will compile over the telephone a step 5 list based on those last boxes of the step 4 trio of inventories: resentments, fears, and harms. So we'll end up with a dozen or 2 dozen things on there, won't we, Rob? And it could be like arrogance, pride, violent, nasty, resentful, dishonest, these kinds of things, you know, and it's the brutal honesty that those things was where that's the exact nature of our wrongs, you know, and it's very precise. It's like the root cause: self-centered, self-willed. You know, and then of course, what would happen then is we would both, the sponsor and the sponsor would, and if you listen to this, a sponsor is someone that's armed with the facts about addiction and recovery, has managed to stay clean for a considerable amount, completely clean for a period of time, and is willing to take the time and energy to take you through the 12 steps of CA, so you can have your own spiritual experience, your own personal journey sufficient to set you completely free from the obsession to use drink and drugs. So the sponsor and sponsee over the phone would come up with this list based on the step 4 sheets. And that would be the act of admitting to ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And then usually at the end of that conversation, you mentioned prayer earlier, providing the person has faith in a creator or a higher power. Usually I would suggest to them, and I would ask them, Rob, you know what I mean? I would say, would you like to pray through this list? And very often the last few blokes, or, you know, how should I pray? What should I say? I said, well, I can suggest how you pray, you know, and I usually suggest something like, you know, Lord God Almighty, these are the exact nature of my wrongs: arrogance, greed, lust, envy, pride, self-sufficiency, self-seeking, and others. And they go through the list and say, you know, this is me saying how, as it is, this is where I've gone wrong. This has been the exact nature of my wrongs. And it's a very powerful thing, isn't it, Rob? You know, it's difficult to convey in words, but it's a process. And if you're listening to this message and you're new and you just got onto this video, I'm going to be putting up a list of, not an exhaustive list, but a list of online meetings that are on every day. Well, most of them are on every day. You'll see it in a few minutes, probably 5-10 minutes. I'll put that list up for us to look at, and you can always pause and rewind and play this video again if you're listening to this. But, you know, if you've just got onto this video and you've never been to a meeting, you've never got onto the steps, there's no doubt about it, coming to your first meeting or listening to guys in recovery for the first time can seem unusual. You know what I mean? But we're just ordinary blokes that have got free, and we've managed to stay free, and we try to carry a message to others, don't we, Rob?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I absolutely cherish the fact that, you know, I feel very, very privileged that I'm, you know, I'm 12 steps, and I'm at the point now where somebody else is putting their trust in me to guide them in the right direction, because that's all a sponsor's going to do, is guide you. You know, we can't tell you what to do. It doesn't work like that. It's all about guidance. And you know, you'll hear a simple program for complicated people, and it really is. It is a simple program. And we, as addicts, overcomplicate things. We make it difficult for ourselves. So, you know, just, you know, literally like go with the flow, you know, just let the process work for you. Don't, um, don't put too much sort of hope and stuff that your spiritual experience is going to be God coming down and giving you a tickle and all the angels singing, because it's more than likely not going to be like that. It'll be a bit more subtle. If it does, go and get a lottery ticket, because you're very lucky. But you know, I know mine was totally different, you know, and mine came directly after step 5. Because step 5 freed me of so much anguish and pain and you know, shame and all sorts of things that I felt towards, you know, the people I'd harmed or the resentments I had and things like that. And it was like literally taking, you know, a 40-kilo backpack, you know, a Bergen, an army Bergen, off my back, you know, and suddenly feeling light and free. You know, and it really is a magical step. You know, I love it. And as soon as you mentioned to me, Paul, that this was the one we were talking about, I lit up, because, you know, I could talk for hours on step 5.
Yeah, yeah,
I think you're the
absolutely.
same.
Me too, Robin. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely could talk literally all day long about this step, because it's the liberation. I mean, for those, you know, I mean, people come along, they say, well, it's a religious cult, you know, and you know, we're not affiliated with any denomination, any politics, any religion, any sect, not at all. There's nothing to pay, nothing to sign, no promises to make to anybody. We're just blokes that try and carry a message of hope, faith, and courage. Now, I've seen countless blokes transformed, and women transformed through this process. Absolutely liberating and you know, and freeing, you know. And so it is. It's so therapeutic and cleansing, isn't it? To, you know, and it's the idea of admission and honesty and rigorous honesty. You know, I mean, it's a program of honesty and action, isn't it? You know, and
Oh,
there's
it's like a. I just just thought of this. It's like a spiritual colonic irrigation. It
well, that's
just
right.
it without sounding too crude, it just flushes away everything. It just literally. I mean, I'm sort of buzzing now thinking about my step 5.
Yeah,
You know, because
yeah,
it was the moment, the turning point for me, going literally like black to white contrast, you know, from being a chronic abuser of cocaine,
mm-hmm.
um, and also a habitual criminal, nasty piece of work, violent man with a massive ego and a huge self-interest. You know, I didn't care about anybody else, and I have gone completely the opposite way.
Yeah,
And that's because of this program, because of step 5. It's freed me. Obviously you go on and do step 8, which you'll get onto later on in this program, you know, that you know, where you do your amends and things. And again, massive freeing moment. But unless you are prepared to admit your wrongs, you can't make up for them. You can't do anything about them. You know what I mean, Paul?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the first steps to solving any problem is admitting there is a problem, you know, and the dishonesty keeps us sick, doesn't it, Rob, if we're dishonest? You know,
Oh, totally.
spiritual.
Resentments and things like that will make you ill.
It does. It does.
You know,
It absolutely does. And, you know, it's interesting, really. And I guess it's another topic for the day. But, you know, I mean, you know, resentments have to do with unforgiveness, and nowhere is forgiveness mentioned in the steps. It's very interesting. Yet many people going through the steps find themselves forgiving others. You know, I mean, you know, God gave wisdom to Bill Wilson, who came up with these steps with some help 80 years ago. You know, and you know, had the steps said, "Oh, you know, you drug addicts need to get connected with God and forgive other people," you know, people say, "What?" You know, no, that's not the angle we come from. Let's have a look at the realities of active addiction. Let's realize the reality that we can get clean and be happy. Let's give the program a go. Let's take a close look at all resentments, fears, and harms. Let's realize the exact nature of where we've gone wrong in life. And suddenly, Rob, it's gone from getting clear of addiction, Rob, to a total transformed life. We're different people. We think different. We speak different. We do different. We've suddenly got a better future in front of us. That's what's on offer in these rooms, a total transformation. But the solution is in the steps and the literature. And
yeah, and possibilities and job opportunities and all these things start to come from the program as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you get a confidence back. You get, you know, it's like you know, that you've got to learn to love yourself before you can love others, you know. And you've got to learn to forgive yourself before you can forgive others and be forgiven, you know. And that's all to do with this process, you know, this step 5. You know, like you say, by admitting that there is a problem, you can then address the problem, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, meetings are really, really important because, you know, most of the steps, the word we is there, or sometimes it's missed up, but it's given on the first step. For example, this step begins with admitted, you know, the exact nature of our wrongs to ourselves, to another human being, and to God. You know, but it's given that it's in the plural. You know what I mean? The first steps, we admitted we're powerless over cocaine and all the mind-altering substances that our lives have become unmanageable. So it's a we program. You know what I mean? So when you go to meetings, generally and severally, most of the folks there will have done a step 5, and it's that shared experience. It's the power of community, the power of fellowship.
It's an I can't, we can.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I've got a little you know, one of the icons that I use on my WhatsApp, which is a little neon sign saying I can't, we can. And you know, it is addiction, especially at the end of addiction, when you're partying for one, you know, you're sat in your bedroom curtain twitching on your own. It's a very, very lonely place, and you are on your own. You know, because you can't admit your problem to others. You know, you don't want to. You're ashamed of it and things like that, and you turn into a lone wolf. And once you come to this, the fellowship of CA, you suddenly realize that there's a lot of people that do actually give a damn.
Yeah.
And you know, you will build and I would say a team, you know, a team of good friends, fellows, men and women, you know, who are there for you to, you know, to listen, to care, to talk, you know, and give advice, you know, and that is the beautiful thing about this program, is that you're not alone. You're never alone in this addiction. You're never alone in the process. You know, we don't shoot our wounded. You know, if you're struggling, all you have to do is reach out, and you know, you'll have 4, 5, 10, 20 people all knowing exactly what you're going through, because they've been there at some point in their process and they want to help.
Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned a lot of really good points there. Many of us end up, the fear, guilt, and shame are often the chains that keep us locked in addiction, because we're locked in that cycle of living to use, using to live. Using drugs becomes a therapeutic medication for the wounds of life, you know, and then we're suddenly in a situation where the wounds are continually having salt thrown in them because of the lies and deception around active addiction, because of the criminality, if we're stealing or oppressing others or dealing, all that madness. And so we medicate ourselves often further with more and more drugs. And suddenly we're locked in a cycle where our solution is drugs. Problem, solution, drugs. You know, and it is a solution. And then for many of us, we get that jumping off point where we can't imagine a future clean, and we can't imagine a future where we can carry on using. You know, and so the only mode of transport available offered is a leap of faith.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and we're ready to catch people in these rooms, aren't we, Rob? We're here and we're free. I'm going to put the meetings list up right now. We are here and we are free, and there's over 1,000 Cocaine Anonymous meetings every single week. And if you're listening to this, you are welcome at all these meetings. You know, it's possible to get free and stay free. So we're coming towards the end of the podcast now. Rob, have you any last thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, just really, it's I like my analogies, as you know, and I've got an analogy for step 5. If you basically think of when I went to do my step 5, I had more baggage than a lost and found at the airport. I mean, I really did. I was dragging it all around with me for years and years and years. Things I had done, things that were done to me, you know, and all that. And, you know, some of those even were like recurring nightmares of stuff that I had done, you know, and that's how much they bothered my psyche, you know. So imagine a carousel at the airport, and all your baggage is slowly dropping down from, you know, from above. You don't know where it's quite coming from on the carousel, but you know, these suitcases are coming in, and it's got, you know, one problem in it, and then another suitcase comes and that's a harm in it, and another suitcase comes and that's a resentment in it, and they're just going round and round and round, but nobody's collecting them. You can't get rid of them. You know, they're going to stick with you for the rest of your life. But then you do your step 5, and it's like some little fella comes along with the trolley, and he starts taking those suitcases off, and basically freeing you at each point of whatever is in that case, that baggage, you know, that you keep dragging around. And eventually, once you've done your step 5, you know, that is what you're asking God to do. You're asking him to remove those things. So they're taken away, and he wheels them off, and you don't ever have to see them again. You don't ever have to have the pain of them again. And you don't, you know, have to have dreams, nightmares, you know, the pain of, you know, resentments or whatever, because God has removed them for you. And when that happens, it's like I say, you know, like somebody taking that 40-kilo weight off your back, and suddenly it's just been removed. And it's amazing. It really is amazing. If you're anywhere near your step 4 and your 5, and you get in the fear, and we've all had it, just listen to this podcast, and I swear to you, and I don't lie to people, because I'm just an honest bloke. Yeah, you can and will have a life beyond your wildest dreams once you start to get rid of all those problems that you've held on to for so long. It is a beautiful experience. It costs nothing. Membership here is free. If you don't like it and it doesn't work for you, we'll give you a refund as you walk out the door. Because I can guarantee you now, the only time you'll walk out the door is with a big smile on your face when you've found what Paul and I have found, and that is a complete reprieve from drugs and alcohol, and and also all those horrible sides of our character. Yeah, it's just beautiful. That's all I got, Paul, I think.
Beautiful. And I mean, I echo everything you've just said. Just to clarify one thing, that's one of the sayings we have. When you say we'll give you a refund, what you mean is the misery and the sorrow of active addiction still outside.
Oh, you can have that back.
Yeah, you don't mean.
Yeah, you can have that back, and then we'll ask you next week, how's it going for you?
Yes, that's right. Yes. And so,
because it's bloody miserable.
It really is. Active addiction is miserable, Now, here's the thing. There's meetings on non-stop. There's meetings on around 1,000 every week. So I've got the right screen up now for the meetings is there. And now Rob and I are part of a group called We Can Recover, and it's on twice a day, every day, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. UK times. Now, here's the thing about the Zoom meeting. Zoom is a completely free app to use. So if you've never been to a Zoom meeting, you just download the Zoom app. And taking We Can Recover at the top there, all you do is enter that ID, which is 971-721-4725, just a few minutes before 2 p.m. or 8 p.m. or indeed, around 2:15, 2:30, you would still get in the meeting. You know what I mean? So you just download the free Zoom app, enter that ID. You don't ever need to feel you need to come on camera. Because there's actually an audio meeting that allows the optional use of cameras. So, and it's the same with all them Zoom meetings. I go to at least 2 every day, and the reality is that 2/3 of attendees don't put their cameras on. So don't ever think, if you're listening to this, that you've got to put your camera on. That is not the case. 2/3 of attendees don't put their cameras on, and that's completely fine. Also, you don't actually have to speak. There's no one going to come on the mic saying, right, you must talk. You know what I mean? We get attendees, don't we, Rob, that just come and listen.
Yeah.
And everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome to public meetings. So if you've never been to a CA meeting, come along, listen to experience, strength and hope, and hear the word of faith that you can get clean and you can stay clean and that you can have a better future. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. We're going to be uploading another one in a few days. So like and subscribe. Any questions, put them in the comments. We're going to be going to step 6 next, which is a great step. And Rob, I just want to thank you for your time. I always enjoy hearing you share. I really mean that. And thank you so much for coming along today.
Thank you for asking me, Paul. It's an absolute pleasure. I always jump at the chance to do some service, and if anything that I've said, we've said, touches somebody and gives them a bit of hope, faith, and courage to crack on, then we've done our bit, and that's what we're I know for a fact that's what I aim to do.
Absolutely.
Every day. I can't save lives. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. I'm just a servant that can guide people in the right direction. At the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's down to you guys now to put the graft in.
Yeah.
You really can have a life free of drink and drugs or whatever your poison is, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you so much for coming along, Rob, and we'll be uploading a video soon. Okay, bye everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.